Welcome to Compassionate Heart Parenting. I'm Michelle. If you've ever snapped at your kids and then felt the wave of guilt afterward, or wondered why you reacted that way, you're not alone. After 15 years as an emotionally focused therapist, I have learned that parenting brings up emotions we didn't even know we were carrying. Here, we'll explore what's beneath those reactions and the small shifts that can help you respond with more calm and connection. Welcome to Compassionate Heart Parenting. I'm your host, Michelle. If you've ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to get through to your child, like there's a wall between you that you don't know how to break down, and the guilt and shame of that feeling are exhausting, you are not alone, and this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about what actually happens in the space between a parent and a child when connection breaks down, and more importantly, what it takes to rebuild it, not through perfect parenting, but through understanding the attachment needs underneath the behavior and learning to meet your child where they actually are. My guest is Stephanie Chimienti, a registered psychotherapist trained in emotionally focused family therapy, play therapy, and parts work. Stephanie brings a rare combination of tools that helps families not just understand each other, but actually connect and know each other again. If you've been stuck in a cycle of guilt about how you've shown up for your child and you're ready for a real path forward, this conversation is going to give you both the understanding and the real hope that you need. So, hello, Stephanie. I'm going to jump right in. Many parents come to me carrying this quiet, heavy guilt, like they love their child deeply, and somehow they still feel like they are failing them. So, before we get into the clinical side of things, I'm really curious, do you see that in your work with parents? And what do you think is really underneath that feeling for most parents?
Hi, that's such a great question. So when I think about my work and how parents even come in the first place, it's definitely do something that I do see a lot. Sometimes also guilt and the shame might actually be kind of masked by blame or anger, where we're like, oh my goodness, my kid won't go to bed when they're supposed to go to bed, and they'll kind of come in venting. And so kind of when I see that, I'm like, oh, it sounds like there's a lot going on. And when we start to feel helpless, sometimes we end up going into these modes where we're venting or when we're lost and confused because we're super helpless, right? There's no manual on how to be a perfect parent, because if there was, maybe we'd be robots. So um
Yes.
there's no
I,
manual.
I really like what you just said that these feelings of guilt can be masked by other things. Feelings of guilt and feeling like you're failing, they can be masked by blaming the kiddo, being really angry or frustrated with the kiddo. I love that you're saying venting. So that makes so much sense when you hear a parent come in that's super frustrated or super angry or, yeah, just venting and venting. You kind of know, like, uh-oh. Probably, and I'm guessing most parents do carry that no matter how it presents, but they probably have that level of guilt and concern about how they're showing up. And I think from my training in emotionally focused family therapy, I love the reframe of this is about how much parents care,
Yeah.
how much parents care about their children. Can you
Mhm.
say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, this does say a lot about how much they care. And I think that was I used to be a child and youth worker back in the day. Um, and that really changed the way that I looked at parents, right? When parents would come in and be like mama bear, papa bear, super protective about their kiddos. Um, I used to be like, oh, they just they're just aggressive, but it's that's actually how they show they care. And being also trained in emotionally focused therapy, it's we learn that parents can either be over responsive or they can be under responsive. And some
Mhm.
of that anxiousness from the over responsiveness can look like that.
Mhm.
Which is always, always, always about care. Um And we
Mhm.
always want to link it back to care because we don't tell our kids to do something because like we want they're like slaves or something like that.
Right,
Like
right.
they're not like that, right? Like
Yeah.
we do those things because we want to instill like good values and teaching like respect and honoring like the things that we love, honoring each other. That's where the care comes from. It might look different, but um it's definitely a lot of care and a lot of love. Yeah.
Yes. You're saying that that deep care and concern can sometimes come out sideways, and sometimes it's over responding or under responding. Can you give parents an idea? Because they might be thinking, uh-oh, do I over respond? Do I under respond? It's
Mm.
probably a mix of of both for all of us, right?
Yeah.
But if we're stuck in one or the other, what does over responding or under responding look like?
That's a good question. So when I'm thinking about like over responding, this is more of like the anxious parent block. So it looks different for kids versus the parents in this in dynamic in emotionally focused therapy. But for over responsive, it's more anxious, and anxious can come up either like being like demanding or critical or angry or like my kid's like not doing enough. The other piece could also be like, um, I'm just thinking about like being like overly permissive. So we kind of give in to like everything that they ask for. Um, and what is the other one? Or overprotective, right? Like there's like
Mhm.
these like strict rules, or like you're not allowed to hang out with this person, or you're not allowed to like go to bed, or you're not allowed to have your phone at night.
Mhm.
um I mean, there's obviously like extents, but that's what like over responsive would look like.
Mhm.
um and then like under responsive more is also like another way we show anxiousness, but we end up avoiding. And
Mhm.
this is like another block I usually see with parents. And like usually like um when I'm thinking about under responsive, like it's like they're absent. They don't really like show up that they're there, or they don't really care.
Mhm.
Sometimes like they might be like feeling inadequate, or they freeze. Like let's
Mhm.
just say your kid is throwing like a huge tantrum and you're like, oh my goodness, in your head, I don't know what to do. And then we just completely freeze. Um,
Right. Mhm.
or we could even be like rejecting or like cold. Like, if they say like, oh yeah, I want to show you this. Mm-mm, I don't care, and walk away. Like that would be another example of like under responsive.
Mhm.
Um, and the thing is, though, it's like we might go into those things not because we don't care. We obviously do. There's also moments where you are also human as a parent,
Right. Yes.
right? And
Unfortunately,
yeah,
we are human.
we are human. And naturally, like we all have different nervous systems and we all respond differently. Um, and so we might just dive into like some of those responses um,
Mhm.
because we were taught that, or like that's what like we observed, that's what, like what we know. It's kind of like the rut we get stuck in. Um,
Mhm.
or when people say, I don't want to be like my mom, and then you
Mhm.
end up being like your mom. And that
Right.
can be really scary for some parents.
100%. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love what you're saying, that it's helpful to like take a step back and look at, oh, what are some parent blocks that exist? What are common parent blocks that you see in your office? And then parents that are listening might be thinking, okay, sometimes, yes, I might do that, or sometimes I do that. And then it sounds like what you're saying is you have this centering like belief that parents are doing the best that they can.
Mhm.
If they're reacting in a certain way, there must be a good reason. Like you were
Mhm.
saying before, it's not because they are just mean or bad or failing. It's like,
Yeah.
no, there's a really good reason. It might not be clear at the start, but if we can
Mhm.
just be curious about it, then we can kind of understand, oh, this is what you're doing on the outside as a parent, and this is what's happening inside for you. And when parents start to hear that, like what do you notice happens for parents when they kind of start to connect, oh, I do this, but I'm actually feeling this way inside?
That's what I think is always so great when you see that, because like when you see that in yourself, you can always see that in your kid, right? This is actually what makes you more wise, right? Like your kid might like run away, but it might not necessarily mean they're running away because they want to run away. That might
Yes.
just be their thing. It actually makes you wiser.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So you're saying the more parents understand my behaviors on the outside don't
Yeah.
often match or don't always match how I'm feeling
Yeah.
on the inside. If I'm
Yeah.
feeling really anxious or concerned or even sad or upset, it might come out in lots of different, like harsh, critical, shutting down, all these different kind of ways, but they're feeling something else inside. And then they're like, oh, that's probably happening for my kid too.
Yeah.
Oh, if they slam the door in my face, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that they're awful and bad or that they're
Yeah.
disrespectful. It means that they're struggling. It means that they're feeling something else
Hmm.
inside. And
Hmm.
I need to lean in and be curious about what's happening. That's so interesting. That makes so much sense that when parents learn more about themselves, they
Hmm.
naturally have more understanding and curiosity and compassion for their children.
100%. Yeah. And like what I love the most about like emotionally focused therapy is we really do focus on parent buy-in. Like we're not doing full big like family sessions right away. And like we have to start small. And like parent buy-in is not that it's like what we need to like bribe you in. Like it's not like that. But
Yeah.
it's like realistically, when you have like a third party coming into a family, right? Like obviously we're helpless, but also too like a little like protective, maybe even defensive. Like and
Hmm.
parent buy-in is about like we're really just trying to show you we're on your team. Like we're
Right.
not here to judge. We're not
Right.
here to like shame you in any way.
Yeah.
We're on your team and like helping with like the caregiving alliance because obviously like, you know, two parents means you're two different nervous systems and you're going to totally react differently.
Hmm.
Um and like what I love about it is like it's if we can be grounded and on the same page as like a team, then we can
Hmm.
be more responsive to our children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense that parents need to trust you as the therapist first, and they
Hmm.
need to know that you see the good in them, that you
Yeah.
see that they care deeply, and
Mm.
then they're not kind of like just waiting for that judgment or waiting for you to tell them what to do, and then they kind of feel like, okay, she gets it, she understands. Now we're a team. And then I love what you said too about the caregiving alliance that
Hmm.
if the parents that are at odds, it's going to be
Yeah.
really hard to respond to their kiddo. And it made
Hmm.
me think of what you said earlier that if I'm guessing when parents kind of see for themselves, oh, sometimes I get angry or I shut down or do whatever, and I'm feeling this way inside, they probably start to have more compassion for their partner who
Yeah.
they both might not like what their partner does in those
Yeah.
difficult moments, and they might not like how they show up. And they might
Yeah.
want to be like, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. Or, I see parents,
Yeah.
get at odds about that. How
Oh
do you
yeah.
see that play out and start to shift?
Oof. Oof. Well, this is exactly why. Like, I wouldn't want like kiddos to be in the session when that's going on, when parents are
Right.
figuring that part out. Um, and I think a lot of too, like when I'm thinking about like attachment, and I'm thinking even like attachment history, like how we were parented, like were emotions allowed to be in the home when we were
Mhm.
growing up, right? And like what I love about this model is like it really allows you to teach about your partner, how they grew up, what they taught, what they were valued when it comes to family, when it comes to parenting,
Mhm.
um, and how that also shapes. Because I mean, what I think is great, and I know we talk about it a lot in emotionally focused therapy, is that when we're in relationships, right, like it is going to require us to change because that's a whole different new person you're working with now. Somebody who
Mhm.
came from a completely different background, family, upbringing. It could be similar, but it's always going to be somewhat different.
Right.
Because you're a different person at the end of the day. And so when they can have some more compassion for each other, because what's also really dysregulating for kiddos is seeing their parents fight. Like we either get
Right.
used to it or we like go in and we can be permissive and like we can try to stop the fight. We're like, please stop fighting, mom and dad. Like relax.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially distressing, I'm sure, for kids if the parents are fighting about them in front of
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
So that makes so much sense that you
Yeah.
bring the parents together, help them be a team, learn about
Mm,
each other, have more
mm,
compassion for each other, and
yeah.
then they can meet their kiddo together in a new way.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just wondering when parents usually, I don't know if you see this too, but it seems like parents often start off with, focus on their kiddos' behaviors and what they want them to do and not do. And what do you see start to shift when you start to teach them and they start to learn about the attachment lens and an attachment signal rather than a behavior problem?
When I'm seeing it, like, okay, it's almost kind of like it clicks almost where it's like non-pathologizing, like they're not sitting here and blaming like the behavior and they're seeing it as like, oh, like this is a call. This is a call to me. Kind of makes me think a bit about like my play therapy training. So I got trained in non-directive play therapy training so I could just get comfortable with messiness, and I'm so
Mm,
happy that I did. But what that really taught me though is like when a kiddo is doing like their language is play at the end of the day, and like the way that they play, we always obviously can dissect like different themes that come up from it, but um the different things that they show you is inviting you into like their experience. For example, like if like a kid in session is like throwing, I have like these like little cotton puff balls like in my office that we
mhm.
play like dodgeball with sometimes.
Yep, my kids would love that. Yes.
Right, it's fun. But like when I notice like they're picking it up and like they're really throwing at me, like I'm highlighting like, oh, like you really want to show me that like you're feeling hurt on the inside. Like
Mm,
it's not necessarily about like they're bad and they want to hurt you. It's them showing you how it feels to be
mm,
them.
mhm. Oh, I really
Yeah.
love that because you
Yeah.
said a call.
Yeah.
Call. Like if our kiddo is doing something and having a difficult behavior, they're calling out to us, I'm struggling on the inside. I need you. I need someone to
Mm,
see and hear me and understand me. And they
yeah.
don't have language for any of that, right?
No.
And so
No.
I love what you're saying when you see that in your office and they pick up a ball and they're like, "Ugh," and that
Yeah.
you hear that and you see that as, oh, they're really hurting and they really need me to hear them and know something about what's happening inside.
Huh.
What a
Yeah.
shift for parents and I love the way you said it kind of clicks. I'm just imagining everything calming down a little bit because I feel
Mm,
like we're focused on behavior and we need to change something and we need to like
yeah.
get our kids to do something different or stop doing something. It feels, I don't know, it feels like harsh and tension and just like this. But when we see, okay, my kid's struggling, they need
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
What are they needing? What's happening with them? There's something about that that just feels so much calmer. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that you brought up that your play therapy training and like how you work with play therapy with kids. So tell me, how do you help parents use play at home to
Mm-hmm.
connect with their kiddos or to reconnect or strengthen their connection?
Mm-hmm. That's such a good question. Usually like what I love saying to parents is like play is their language, right? Like when we get on the floor and we're playing and inviting ourselves in, like it really requires you to be curious,
Mm,
depending on what they're asking, what they want to do, if they want to play like dress up, like it requires you to be curious, and also like not saying that embarrassment isn't allowed to be there, but it's like asking embarrassment to just like sit on the side for a little bit where we can just be goofy. We can just
mhm,
follow. And like the cool thing about play is like it's following their lead. You're empowering them. Actually, like when
mhm,
you follow their lead, you're empowering them. They're not calling all the shots, but it's like I invite parents in because it's like you get to see a bit of how they see the world, right? You
mm,
might see it how they play like in the kitchen. You might see that how they play outside. You get to see what life looks like on their end. And when you
mhm,
invite yourself, well, when they invite you, that's also really special. But when you're willing and you go into the play and just like take a
mhm,
breath and just say, I'm just going to follow their lead, see like how they want me to play. Like there's no specific way. Like
mhm.
there like just like being a parent, like there's no specific way that you have to play. Like there
Right.
isn't.
Yeah, and I can see that being even for myself, someone who's like likes a structure and tell me to do A, B, C, D, and then I'll do it and then everything will be great, right? And I
Mm,
guess that's part of meeting them where they are is like being willing to it's not there isn't a structure and there isn't
mm,
control and it's just I love that speaking to them in their own language, like meeting them where they are and then
mhm.
seeing the world through their eyes. That makes so much sense. As
Yeah.
much as we would love for our kids to be able to say, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm
Mm,
angry, whatever it is. And
yeah.
sometimes they can. So I think
Yeah.
that's what, is kind of tricky for us as parents because we're like, well, they can
Mhm.
talk and they can talk about their feelings, but I mean, it makes sense that it's oftentimes it's not easy to access verbally. It's
Yeah.
not always easy for us as adults to access
Yeah.
our feelings verbally. So of course it's
Yeah.
harder for kids.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Um, the other thing I like always saying to people when I first see them, it's like when we're babies, it's so easy. You cry, you need a bottle. You cry, maybe a diaper change. You cry, maybe you just need to be rocked. But like as we
Hmm.
get older, we don't actually have like that same language and we say, "Oh, like don't be a baby, like stop crying." But like we still need like that co-regulation. We still need to be soothed whether it's through words. Like we don't even actually have to have like the perfect words. Like a
Hmm.
hug actually does so much more.
Hmm.
So much more. Like when you see your kid like freaking out and it's like and also like validation. Like validation is like what we say about like whispering to your amygdala, which is I mean your
Hmm.
amygdala is going to always sense threat and if we are like saying we're on our side, we're here, we understand, we get you, our amygdala calms down. Then we stop freaking out.
Hmm.
And kids can actually like say, okay, you know what, you are on my side, you do get me.
Hmm.
um, and we're not like agreeing with them, like that's not necessarily what it is, we're just accepting like how they feel in that
Right,
moment. Yeah.
right. And I love what you mentioned about co-regulation, and I'm thinking listeners might have questions about that. So let's say their kiddo comes home from school and throws the backpack down and starts stomping around. So they're
Yeah.
clearly dysregulated, right? And then
Clearly.
what happens? Like, what does that mean as a parent if we want to offer co-regulation?
mm, maybe if we're going with like that example and kids like stomping in, sometimes I like also like doing the energy like with them. Like if they're stomping, sometimes like I might mirror them and say, "Oh, like I had such a hard day," and like just try to name, see like what comes up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or also, like when you're ready, sounds like you had a hard day. Maybe when you are ready, we can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready. Like we don't want to push them because sometimes like what this can also this is where I go back to like the over responsive versus under
Right.
responsive, right? Like if we push them too much, they're gonna pull away. But
Mm-hmm.
if we don't push enough, then they can get confused. Like they're not gonna know if you're gonna be there for them or not. So you kind of want to like give them like a little bit and then walk away. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit, walk away. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
another example I got for you. This one actually I learned from like my supervisor a while ago, and I thought this was just so wise. But
Mhm.
um, developmentally, like with kiddos, right? Um, it makes me think about like the phase of parenting that we're in, and so like when we're thinking like elementary school, like probably like baby to, I want to say like maybe like grade 5, grade 6. Um,
Mhm.
we're really managers for those kids, right? Like we're really like on top of them, making sure that they do this, they do that. And then eventually we got to this phase when they can do stuff on their own. And we're kind of more like coaches. So we kind of tell them what to do and then they go on the field and they play. Obviously, we can't control like what happens on the field. Um,
Mhm.
and that happens a lot in like an adolescence. It's like a lot of like, okay, I'm going to try to coach you as much as I can. And then I have to put it on you and you're going to have to try it. That's how they
Mhm.
learn how to be like explore themselves. Um,
Mhm.
and then we reach a phase like when they are like, I would say like when they start going to like school or like post secondary school or maybe even when they turn 18. But we start to see that they come back around, but they come back around with almost like we're equal.
Mm.
Not totally equal because the parent-child relationship will always be a parent-child relationship, but like the
Mhm.
dynamics change. Like I don't need my mom to like feed me a bottle, or I don't need her to tell me my schedule. I know my schedule.
Right,
But I
right.
can go and talk to her about what I feel.
Hmm.
So I think that's like the different phases. And sometimes we get caught up in the coaching or honestly the managing. I feel like we get caught up in because it's like, oh my goodness, like I want to make sure you're safe. And we have to also trust that our kids are going to be able to um, make mistakes so that they learn.
Right,
But they
yes.
get to come back to you at the end of the day and you get to talk about them.
Hmm. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think that is really hard for parents. That I know it's been hard for me as my
Mm-hmm.
children have, I have two sixth graders and a fourth grader. And sometimes I'm like, is this something they can do for themselves now? Is this something I should be? So it does kind of feel like this leaning out and leaning in and checking in
Mm-hmm.
and what can they do on their own and what do they
Yeah.
still need support with and how
Mm-hmm.
much is, how much am I coaching here? And so I think it is, especially given that over responding, under responding thing,
Yeah.
right? That
Oh,
it's
yeah.
easy to lose our balance. And I'm sure I think
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of like a work in progress. As long as we're continuing to kind of think about
Yeah.
how am I responding? Um, am I letting them kind of do what they can do and
Mm-hmm.
not over managing and over and not controlling? Then yeah, it feels like it's more balanced and we're kind of meeting them
Yeah.
where they are. And
Yeah.
um, so let me see if I had another question here for you. So
Mm-hmm.
another part that I know they talk a lot about, or we talk a lot about in emotionally focused family therapy is negative cycles that families can get pulled into where
Mm-hmm.
everyone's just reacting and no one
Yeah.
feels heard. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering what do you notice or what have you found that really helps parents identify that cycle at home and then start to interrupt it so that they can
Mm-hmm.
step out of it?
When I'm thinking about like the cycles like that happen at home, because obviously, like when it plays out in the therapy session, like, it's like slow down, we get to
Mhm.
distill it. Um, but it makes me think about this quote by Dan Siegel. I can't remember what book it's actually from, one of his books,
He
one of
has
his
so many good
many.
books, right?
So many books. He's such a wise person.
Yes.
But one of the things that he said is like sometimes it might take a moment when we're like having like an argument with our child where we realize this was something that was super repressed when we were children, right? And we were the child in the same position. Um,
Hmm.
and the thing is, though, is when we recognize those moments, right? I remember like what it was like when my parent was yelling at me, and I have no idea why,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like, this is why we also talk a lot about like rupture and repair, right? Like you're supposed to fight at the end of the day.
Hmm.
We're all different human beings. We have to fight, but it's about how we repair, and how we kind of fill in like what happened for us. Because like a lot of the times though, it's like when we don't know what another person feels, like we start playing like this story in our head, and it's full of like all of like these assumptions. Obviously it's not because we want to assume and we want to assume people are bad, but it's like we go into like these assumptions because that's how we keep ourselves safe. That's how we keep our family safe. And if we can figure out the problem, if we make meaning, boom, we have a solution. And so when I notice parents start to interrupt that, it's like having like that flash of like, oh my goodness, I remember what it was like to be a kiddo where, you know, they have a choice point where they can either lean into like the anger or
Hmm.
they can lean into the hurt that they felt. And when they
Hmm.
do that, that's when like that interrupting really
Hmm.
happens. And then, I mean, I've had families who do the interrupting and they tell me later and they're like, yeah, they were really shocked.
Hmm.
Like
That's
my
so
kid was really shocked.
that is so cool. So it sounds like in
Yeah.
the moment, there's this, going back and forth, and the parent
Yeah.
remembers a session with you, remembers a family session, and is like, oh, they're hurting. Oh. And so that makes so much sense. And that just shifts everything for them. I'm just imagining like the anger kind of like melting away a little bit,
Hmm.
and then them seeing their child and seeing like what's more happening inside just versus the reactions that are happening
Hmm.
outside. And when you were saying that, it was making me think of when I was doing this work when my kids were younger and I was working on my yelling pattern and like trying to figure out, why am I yelling? What the
Hmm.
heck is happening here? And I would
Hmm.
work with a parent coach, and one of the things that came up was, it was like I felt like I was the same age as my child. Like I was picturing her in my mind as really big. It was really strange. So it was like all of a sudden I was a kid and I was
Hmm.
being very reactive and reaction from from a child's point of view. And I had
Yeah.
totally lost my adult self. I had lost my balance. I'd lost my footing. And so no wonder I couldn't really see my kiddo. I couldn't see what
Hmm.
was happening inside of her. And
Hmm.
I was just stuck in reactivity. So I
Yeah.
love that parents are making that connection where they're like, oh, what was it like when I was a kid? Oh, yeah, I remember feeling upset when my parents were upset with me, or I remember how hard it
Hmm.
was when a parent yelled at me, or I remember when, and then they connect with that, and then that shifts them, like brings awareness of the cycle, and then starts to help them shift out of the cycle. And how cool that the kid was like, what just happened there?
Yeah.
This is
So
new.
cool. So great. I love seeing those moments and hearing about them after too, because it's like change is possible.
Right. Yes.
Doesn't matter like how old the kids are, change is always possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And let me see, that's kind of leads into my next question. For the
Hmm.
parent who's listening right now and thinking, I've really damaged my relationship with my child. I've yelled too much. I've been too disconnected. It's gone on for too many years. What would you want them to know about repair and repair still being very much possible?
Oh my goodness. Repairs. The thing is when I think about like families, I think it's so different from like couples, like when we're doing like couple work with emotionally focused therapy, but like with families, and I'm like just like thinking about all the cases that I've like worked with, and it's like as much as our parents can like make us angry, there's still going to be parts of us that love them.
Mm,
And even though like they may have like caused us like there's like the patterns have caused us like so much hurt, there is still going to be like that desire for kiddos to still want to do repair, to hope
mm,
for change. I mean,
mhm,
like I'm thinking about even like the people at like the group practice I'm at and that I
mhm,
work with, and we work with like a lot of families who, and it's not, I'm not even kidding, like not just little kids. I like working with the little kids, but um adult children, like we're talking like 20-year olds, we're talking 30-year olds, we're talking 40-year olds coming back doing family therapy with their family, like with their parents. um and that's what I mean by like repair is still possible. Like you could come to this moment and you reflect like 20 years later after you have kids and say, you know what, I feel like I really messed up, but talking about it and actually doing the repair is always possible. um,
mhm, mhm.
and it teaches them a lot about things that they didn't know. Like we're not talking like trauma dumping on your kid. Like that's not what we're saying. Like I mean, there's a certain amount like maybe we do want to know because that helps us like understand like our lives and where we come from.
Right.
Um, but like enough to know like where they were coming from. Like
Mhm,
like I have like all these experiences and I remember feeling this way, and I don't want you to feel that way. You know? I mean, obviously we can't stop people from feeling things, but like when we accept that people feel this way, like when they feel sad or when they feel angry, we accept those things.
mhm,
It actually makes it so much easier. Like we're not like dosing the fire with gasoline. We're actually starting to put water and cool it down.
mhm.
Um,
Yes, I love that. And I love that you're saying it can, I mean, it's so hopeful to hear about
yeah,
40-year-olds coming in with their parents and
yeah,
doing family therapy, because I'm just thinking about the
yeah.
ripple effects of that.
Oh my
If the
goodness, yeah.
40-year-old has a partner or has children,
Mm-hmm.
that family dynamic shifting
Yeah,
is going to have all these positive ripple effects for everybody in their lives. And so
yeah,
it's so hopeful and encouraging to hear it is really never, ever, ever too late.
yeah.
And I'm thinking about adults that I work with too, and how the tears will come to their eyes when they'll talk about, and years later they told me that they were sorry, their
Mm,
parent. They will tell me about like difficult things that happened, and then they'll say,
mm,
and then they told me and they said they were sorry and they wish they had done things differently. And you
yeah.
can see how much that means to them. Like it
Hmm.
really kind of acknowledges their experience, right? So when we repair, we're acknowledging the person's experience that was hurt. We're
Yeah.
letting them know we care and we see them
Hmm.
and we want things to be different and better. So, yeah, it's just so encouraging to hear that. Whether we
Hmm.
have littles or bigs, like there is always room for responding to our kids
Hmm.
differently. And there's always rooms for repair because, like you said, there's going to be
Yeah.
ruptures. Like that's life with other humans, rupture,
Yeah.
repair, rupture,
Yeah.
repair. And
Yeah.
we can always come back and repair.
Yeah. And how good is it where you can teach your kid how to have a rupture and a repair? Like, really
Hmm.
have, like, yeah, maybe an explosive rupture, but at least they're doing it and understanding after, like, what's going on for them. You're giving them something so different. Um, and like, you're human at the end of the day. Like, we are gonna have moments where, we step into like the over responsiveness. It's like where we're gonna yell at our kids. Like, it's natural, but at least like explaining why and like having think of, oh, there was a video I saw the other day of somebody doing like time out versus like time in.
Hmm.
um, where, yeah, we got the space because some people really do need the space. I know I need the space. Like, sometimes I'm like, I need to cool down.
Hmm.
I need to cool down before we have a conversation because I don't want to make this worse. But it's like the time in that we do have, like, that is like really impactful because we learn where we were coming from. We can take accountability, we can be attuned, and we can actually understand and see where they were coming from.
Right.
And I think that makes a big difference. That's how we bond. That's how we connect at the end of the day. And that's what being in a family is supposed to feel like, where we are bonded and connected and attuned. And, we can feel like we are equipped to support our kiddos at the end of the day, whether their problems are like somebody stole my toy or, I don't know if I should move out yet or not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that the focus is on the relationship and
Hmm.
tuning in and not on perfection, not on any certain strict rules of this is what I
Hmm.
have to do or should be doing as a parent. It's more of
Yeah.
focusing on the
Hmm.
relationship and being there. So let's see. If you could say one thing to a parent who is lying awake at night, convinced that they're messing up their child, what would it be?
Hmm. Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, my go-to one is like, you are a good parent, right? You wouldn't be laying there in bed at night worrying about it if you weren't a good parent, because that just shows how much you care.
Hmm.
And like, we all don't know what it was like. Like, we're not born to know how to parent, but you know what it was like to be a child. And the fact that you care this much to think about it at night means a lot to them. And they probably don't even know it. Like, that's the other thing. Like, talking to them and telling them those things actually can make you feel more connected to them, and they can feel more connected to you.
I really
Yeah.
love that. So that's a signal. It's a signal of how much an
Yeah.
evidence of how much the parent cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that your first answer is it's like you want to whisper in the ear, you are a good parent. Look how much you
Yeah.
care that you're lying awake worrying.
Yeah.
Um, so Stephanie, where can people learn about you, learn more about your work?
Mhm. So I'm at a group practice called Counseling and Co. And we're practice like local in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. And you can see my bio. I've also like written a couple of blogs on our website there. Um, I also have Instagram. I post like a lot of like funny and relatable content there.
Awesome. We need
So what is my
her,
handle?
right?
Yeah, I think do you want me to say the handle here, or you want me to?
Well, I think you shared it with me, so I'll put it in the show notes, and then
Okay,
everybody can just look in the show notes and go
you can
and
have
find
fun.
Stephanie and her
Yeah.
work. And if
Yeah.
they happen to be in Canada, then they can maybe even come to your group practice if they're needing that. Thank you
Hmm.
so much for being here, Stephanie, and for everyone listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well. And a reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. And if you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thanks again for listening.